Those of you who have either backed the Indiegogo Swytch e-bike conversion kit or are interested in it, this is my take on how that went and some of my own tips in terms of making it a better experience. First of all, it's a great product. I've been really happy with it. So I ordered my Swytch e-bike conversion about a year ago, January 2018. It's now February 2019. I'm in British Columbia, Vancouver Island, Canada, and it showed up more or less. I had about 30 or so or 20 updates over the fullness of the year from Swytch, so they kept pretty good contact in terms of delays and keeping track of these things. We had some bad weather in January that delayed the whole process as well, but it was all pretty good. So you can see on the box, we've got wheel size identifies 28 inches. The front is 100mm motor, 250 watts. You can go 20 miles per hour. It's USA charger, 10 amp battery, inline brakes. I did get the thumb throttle option, which is not working yet, and the torque arms, because I have carbon fiber arms on my bike. It was all well packed inside. Lots of little things in there, big styrofoam blocks to wrap the bike, the wheel frame in. For some reason I thought that the frame, the tire came with a rubber tire and tube on it, but it didn't. It was steel, so you'll have to order that yourself. The fact that it actually all showed up and fit on my bike, it's probably a minor miracle. Without the battery, it's pretty minimal. It only adds apparently 1.5 kilograms to the overall weight. It probably took me about 5 hours, 4 to 5 hours to do all this. I'm no mechanic, and but I managed to get it all done myself. I'll show you the main parts that need to be installed. Right here needed to be filed down to accommodate the hub. It took a little while. I needed a good sharp file for that. I figured I'd do the fork instead of the axle on the motor because the steel is a little bit harder on that than it was on the fork. This is the torque arm. It just slips onto the hub in front of the nut. It's a little right angle bracket here and a worm screw to hold it to the carbon fiber fork, which does not have a suspension on it and has a little bit of flexibility, so I figured it would need the extra rigidity of that arm to transfer the torque from the motor. I had to mount the tire and inner tube myself and inflate it, and I used a couple of little tire prise plastic pieces for that. It's the first time I've ever done it actually, and it probably took me about 30 minutes to do the whole thing, but not a problem. Yeah, it would have been nice if the bike had come with all that stuff, but it didn't, and so that was another $75 or so of parts I had to buy. So the pedal assist sensor here is basically two little circles of plastic with magnets on them. And it's a little unusual. When you get it, they're attached, and it's not obvious when you get it that this thing breaks apart easily. And there's nothing in the instruction manual to show you how to break it apart. I used a little screwdriver in there to wedge them apart, and hoping at the time I wasn't going to break it, which I didn't. But it would have been nice if there was something in there. I'm not exactly sure what these notches are in here for, but anyway, they're there as well. And then once these two halves go together around the axle with the pedal, which is on the opposite side of the chain, you just put this little C-shaped metal ring around it, which tends to hold it in place. The other thing that needs to be adjusted is a little magnet sensor which sticks to the metal frame. It has a couple of zip ties that holds it in place as well. It's a bit snug. Mine has maybe a millimeter gap there, and I'm hoping that I don't get any dirt or anything that would cause any kind of friction and abrasion which might cut into the plastic. Attached to my gears is my brake for my rear. It comes with both a front and rear brake cutoff. So you feed the brake line through this little device here, which senses the brake line being used, and it cuts the power off to the motor. This is probably my most nerve-wracking part of doing the entire install, because you know, you're messing with your brake system, and you'd hate to do something irreparable to it. But basically, I detached it at the handle here, and then all the parts where it feeds through the frame all the way to the back, where I had to you know, unscrew that so that the cable would be pulled through. You do get a cable provided as part of the kit, and a little silvery thing that clamps onto the end of the cable. It keeps it from fraying. Don't lose that. It's really small and easy to lose. But if you're just patient with it, the whole thing actually worked pretty well. On mine, the gears and brakes are all together. It may be different on your own setup. They do recommend that when you take out the old brake line, you can, for the rear, you can use it again on the front brake on the left-hand side, and have both cutoffs for the motor on that. But I don't think I needed it. It was just one more level of hassle that I didn't want to get involved with. My thumb screw throttle, I'm still trying to figure out kind of how it works. I had to take off my handle grip here with a little screw at the end, slide it off the bar, cut a little piece off because it was impeding against my gears and brake. It does not come apart as a C-clamp. It's completely circular and does have to slide onto the handlebar. So mounting the battery holder was pretty straightforward. If you have smaller handlebars, there are some rubber inserts that to bulk it out a bit. Mine are sufficiently fat that I could just put it over and screw it down. There's a little strap underneath which you tip it forward to tighten it, and then you push it down and the strap snugs up underneath the handlebar and keeps the whole thing from falling forward, because that battery on it is a lot of weight. I suppose if there's anything to be said about the whole setup, it's aesthetically a bit of a mess of wires at the front. I tried to kind of bunch them together with a zip tie to make it a little bit tidier. These are the little connectors. As you see, that when you connect that little groove, that bump that has to fit into that groove, and these small pins, you have to be quite careful with, because if you're sort of ham-fisted, you could cause a lot of damage to that. And once it's damaged, I don't know how you're ever going to repair it, because these things are all waterproof connections and they're sealed, and they're not really, you know, made for cutting apart and gluing back together again. You wouldn't want a bike to fall over and snag a branch and all of a sudden you've yanked a couple of those wires out. So if you go to the Swytch website, it tells you the LCD display instructions. That's the only thing that's in there in terms of the battery. There's nothing for the battery itself. So you have to assume that that's correct. So if you hit that button, it takes you to the PDF. That is the KD21C display, which is not sitting inside the battery. It mounts, looks like, on your handlebar. But it's close enough to the battery that that's the only thing you have to go from. That's what you have to go with. And then it has all these descriptions of things that are on the display. That's all correct, so no problem with that. But I wish there was something in that battery description. Some of the language in this thing is quite awkward as well, and you kind of just have to almost guess as to what their intention was. Switching the battery on and off, actually it has that big old battery switch on the left side, which is not mentioned anywhere, and that's what you have to turn on first, and then you hold the mode button down. So 1, 2, there we go, and I'm going to leave that on so that we can see the display better. Okay, so first of all, we're in trip. To cancel the trip distances that are on there, we hit yes or no. So yes or no, and I'm just going to hit yes just to go ahead and do that. We're going to save that, and we're back to the original screen display again. So I have to get back, hold these two down, and then we cycle to the next one, which is the backlight. I'm at 3 right now. You can see that it's a little bit darker, a little bit lighter. 3 looks pretty good. If I hit that again, we're now in units. Kilometers, miles per hour, kilometers, we'll leave that in kilometers. And that then brings us back to the start again. Access general param sessions. Hold both the up and down button for 2 seconds. 2 seconds, right, this is what I want. Okay. Is the wheel diameter, and I'm not sure why it says L instead of W or something, but there you go. 28 inch, so I can take that down or up. We'll leave it at 28 inches. Mode saves that. And I'm out of there. Okay, let's get back into that again. This is kind of an odd part where it sort of drops you out and in. 1, 2, good. Okay, so if I limits it, it's LS, not L5. So right now, its default is 25 kilometers per hour. It's giving me 32. Yeah, whatever. Keep that. Change basic settings, I can go up or down. Oh, interesting. Okay. I guess it's flashing because it's saying, do you want to choose this or not? So let's just hit mode. Okay, so now it's flashing saying 32. I can bring it down to 30 kilometers an hour or up higher. I'll go with 30 kilometers an hour. There we go, that's fine. If I hit mode, that saves it. We'll get into that. 1, 2. Up and down again for 2 seconds. Okay. First one we have is voltage settings. Move up. Next one is SCA. Power assist is called SCA. So whatever. For some reason they aren't using letters that match. Okay, whatever. Current override. Now that one I'm not sure it's actually controller over current cut settings. I assume that means that it shuts off if it takes too much current. Default value is 15 amps. PA. So PA is power assist sensor. It's the direction of the sensor, and it's saying it's going forward. Well, of course it's going forward, so we'll just leave that one alone. Getting on to the next one, sensitivity of the power assist. Okay, plus it seems to be working fine. Let's just leave it. Okay, next is magnet quantity settings. N represents the number of magnets on the PSS. Default is 6. Well, I've seen there's like 20 of them or so on there. I mean, it's not 6. What have we got? We got speed sensors is 0, 1. Default value is 1 for sensors, and it seems to work fine. I don't know what else is it going to do. 2, 1. Okay, let's just leave it at that. It'd be nice if there's some explanation in the guide as to what these numbers actually meant before. You know, they shouldn't really encourage you to mess around with them if the defaults are fine. Okay, then the next thing we go to is HND. So for some strange reason, HND means throttle, and I assume that means hand, I guess. Throttle push assistance enable disable. And this one says HL as opposed to HN or D, and that's to use the thumb throttle to walk the bike along. So what our choices are here, yes or no, and sure, I'd like to have the thumb throttle helping us out here, so let's go with that. Okay, then the next thing, oops, okay, there's no setting for thumb throttle, which is HL. Where did that go? Let's see, system. HL is there. Yes, that's the thumb throttle assistance, okay. But then throttle level enable disable is HF. And I don't see an HF in here. Okay, well, let's move on. They don't show the first letters here on the chart. They just show the settings within it, the DLY. And the delay, which that stands for, in this case is saying 3 seconds. That's the default value to delay time change. I don't know what that means, why you'd want to do that or not, so let's just leave it at the default. Then the next thing is the maximum speed limiter. Go figure, PSD. This password, I'm not going to mess with that. There is a default thing, but I'm not going to mess with that, so we're going to get out of this. Now we're back to our starting screen. So, needless to say, this is complicated, unnecessary, considering how well designed everything else is. So in these personalized settings, you can do things like assistance level. There's 8 modes to select from, 0 to 3, 1 to 3, etc., etc. Default is 0 to 5. There really is no explanation given in here as to why you'd want to change them or how they work. That would have been really handy. The power assist ratio settings to modify the value of power assist ratio can match the different requirements. I don't even know what that sentence means. Like, it just doesn't make sense. Then it says, for example, a range of 45 to 50% of one level bottom value can be modified. Default is 50. What does that mean? Let's skip to the next one. I have no idea. Controller overcurrent cut settings. Controller CRUR value can be changed from 7 amps to 22. Default is 15. Seems reasonable. I don't know why you'd want to have a lower or upper value if that's what they've decided works best for their own technology. Power assist sensor settings. Run F means forward direction, backwards direction. Default is run forward. Yeah, your bike's going to go forward unless you ride your bike backwards. Sensitivity of the power assist settings. Sensitivity value ranges from 2 to 9. 2 is the strongest setting, 9 is the weakest. Default value is 2. If it works, again, it seems fine. It doesn't say when to change it, how, what reasons you'd want to change it. This is an interesting one. Magnet quantity settings. N represents magnet numbers on the power pedal assist disc. Default is 6. Well, I know there's a hell of a lot more magnets on there than 6. Why don't they put the number that's actually in the disc? They know what it is. They built this equipment, and why would you even want to change that? And if the default is 6, which is what it is, well, then that's wrong. But it seems to work fine. So, throttle level enable, yes or no. Basically, the throttle works or not. Well, because this is not an option on my battery, I can't get to my throttle upgrade. So this has been a particular bit of frustration for me. Why would you care? Why would you want to know what your battery is doing every 6 seconds instead of 3 seconds or 12 seconds? It's like, okay, whatever. Doesn't seem to be very important. Push button assistance enable. This represents push button assistance settings, yes or no. Push button assistance. I have no idea what that means. Slowly start up setting. This kind of makes a bit of sense in that 1 to 4, 4 is slowest, 1, I guess that's how quickly the power kicks in on the pedal assist, and maybe you don't want it to come on too strong or fast. Recover defaults, if you think you've really messed everything up and you want to get back to factory defaults, then you can do that by pressing a combination that goes to DEF. But overall, some of the wording in here is crazy. The order of it doesn't make sense. The explanation of it is not there at all. So I really wish Swytch would get in gear, so to speak, and do a way better job of this whole battery thing, because it's a big part of this experience. Do you need to know all that stuff? Not really. Just put the bag on the bike and go. Any good lithium battery, especially one of this size, needs to be treated with care. Don't deeply discharge it. Don't try to see how far you can go at first. Just do lightly discharges, bring it back up again with a charge, lightly discharge it, and do that a few cycles. That will make your lithium battery last quite a lot longer. Yeah, it makes a little bit of hub noise as well. You can hear it as you're moving along there, but it's actually not a bad sound. It's kind of like a little motor working for you. How's its pulling power on hills for such a small motor, 250? It's actually pretty good. This is a fairly steep hill here I'm on, and pedaling up is real easy. It'd be a good idea to carry a backpack with you so you can take your battery off, stick it in the pack. Carry that around with you over your back with your helmet or anything else. You don't want to be leaving that on the bike. And also make sure that your chain or your bike lock can go through the hub and the body of the bike onto whatever it is that you're locking it onto. Because that's the number 1 thing to steal. This is the number 2 thing to steal. Everything else I wouldn't worry about. So overall, I'm pretty pleased with the Swytch package. It seems to be high quality materials, not overly complicated to install. The instructions, it's a pretty cheeky YouTube video in terms of how simple it is to put together. I wouldn't call it quite that simple, But, you know, given 4 hours of time to very patiently go through the whole thing. So I hope you found these tips useful. Enjoy your Swytch bike conversion, and thanks for watching. Bye.